So after letting go of my F-Type and before settling on this Jeep, I narrowed down what car I wanted to get next, and it came down to this Jeep Wrangler, a BMW X5, a Range Rover Sport, and a Land Rover Defender.
This time around, I knew I wanted a big car. I've always had small, sporty cars, so this time, I wanted something big. I wanted to carry people when I need to. I wanted to be able to do a trip to Home Depot and buy big stuff and able to fit it in my car. I have never had an SUV before. Although I've drove several, I have never wanted one until now. Besides the Jeep Wrangler, everything else on my list are basically luxury SUVs. The next step came down to price. I paid a lot for my last car. If you haven't seen my last car video, click on the top right hand corner to check it out. The BMW X5, Range Rover Sport, and the Defender, after my build, they all come out to around the same price. But without those SUVs, there's really not much I can customize and make it my own. Whereas a Jeep Wrangler, it would be like a toy, and I can fix it up and can actually take it off-road. If I end up with the Range Rover Sport, I would probably never take it off-road, even though it is very capable. Same with the Land Rover Defender. The BMW X5, not so much. It's really an on-road luxury SUV. Also, I think besides the BMW X5, the Jeep Wrangler was the only other car that comes with included maintenance for the first 36,000 miles. For this car, I wanted something where I don't have to baby it as much. Something rugged, something that I can go anywhere with. I love the Jeep for its timeless looks. A Jeep is a Jeep, very distinctive, classic boxy military shape. There's no place you can't go in a Jeep. If there was an apocalypse, I would take the Jeep over our Tesla for sure. In the end, I ended up with a 2020 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited Rubicon. Of course, if you know me, I have to go with black.
So before deciding on the Jeep, I literally did my research for like 2 months. I was obsessed, just reading up on forums, watching all the videos I can find about it, making a spreadsheet of all the things that I wanted to do to it, how much it's going to cost, what kind of wheels and tires I was going to put on it. I knew if I get a Jeep, I definitely would want bigger wheels and tires for sure. I think it's just part of having a Jeep. Like, you got to customize it and make it your own.
Going on the Jeep website, it's insane that they have so many different variations of the Wrangler. During my 2 months of Jeep research, I test drove like 4 different Wranglers. I test drove the high altitude, a Rubicon, a V6, and a 4-cylinder. At first, I was like, I want a simple basic Jeep, then that shit went out the fucking window. I ultimately came down with a decision that I wanted a Rubicon, and it didn't matter whether it was a 4-cylinder or a 6-cylinder. The MPG is about the same anyways. I wanted a Rubicon because the fender sits a little higher, so I don't have to get a lift kit, but still has that rugged Jeep look with enough height clearance for whenever I feel like taking it off-road. My requirement was that I wanted both head and tail lights to be LED, leather interior, and the 8.4 screen with the Alpine Premium audio. But of course, all these items come in different packages, so in order to get those features, you have to get them with the packages. I'm going to make a separate video in depth about my Jeep, but for this video, I wanted to focus on what it's like to own a Jeep Wrangler Rubicon for the first time. This car is like nothing I've ever had before. I knew it's going to be louder as far as road noise and interior noise. I mean, look how aerodynamic it is. Which is fine, I don't mind the noise. I always drive blasting my music anyways, so because of that, I for sure wanted the premium Alpine audio system. And I almost want to say it's somewhat the same or better than the Bang & Olufsen system I had in my Audi. With the 8.4 screen with the Alpine Premium audio, it comes with CarPlay, which is my main source of audio every time I get into the car. I've never had a rear-wheel drive car before. It was either front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. This Jeep is basically a rear-wheel drive if you are on the road, meaning pavement, meaning regular street driving. Off-road, you can switch to 4-wheel drive. I mainly drive on-road, but I did take it off-road a couple times and it was a blast. My only other off-road experience was in a full-size Range Rover at an event, and that was awesome too. But off-roading in the Jeep, it just feels natural. It's where it belongs.
I love everything about this Jeep. I love sitting up high. I love being able to see ahead. I love its size inside and out. People think that this car is really big, but it's actually not. I think it's just because of 35-inch tires that I put on there, but it actually has the same width and length as our Tesla Model Y, and I think it also weighs almost exactly the same too. So yeah, that's kind of interesting.
The only thing I had to get used to was the steering. Even before getting this Jeep, I knew I had to put a steering stabilizer on it just from reading all the forums. Even after putting the steering stabilizer on, it still didn't feel right to me. The car would wander all over, especially on the highway, going straight. Then I keep doing my research. I found out Jeep put out a TSB, which is for everything between 2018 and 2020 model, to replace the steering box with a steel one. A TSB is a technical service bulletin which is issued by the automakers when certain problems and defects are reported by the repair shops or the car owners. So I went into my local dealer. They replaced it without any problems. After that, it definitely drives a little better, but it took me a while to realize that this is probably the best steering that this car can have. I actually took it back to the dealer after several weeks, and their service guy drove it and he said it drives totally fine. That was my confirmation to be like, okay, if I want to make this thing steer better, I'm probably going to have to go aftermarket. So the next thing I was going to get is the Synergy front track bar and Sector shaft brace. I think I'm okay with the steering for now. I'm starting to get used to it. But how my car drive is, if there are strong wind on the freeway, it's going to push onto the car. I can definitely feel the wind, which I get it. This is like a fucking box on wheels. The other thing is, if I pass a car on the freeway, for example, if I'm passing on the left, I can feel the car pushing to the left, which I have gotten used to. Before getting used to driving this thing, I would fucking white knuckles both hands on the fucking steering wheel, holding onto it for my dear life. At one point, I'm like, did I make a mistake by getting this car? But now that I'm getting used to everything, I fucking love it. Also too, we have a Tesla Model Y Performance, which is like a bullet. Can't feel the wind, hugs the road, it has tight sport steering, so coming from that car to the Jeep, it's completely two different cars. Even though I test drove 4 different Wranglers, it wasn't enough to really understand the car. Even though I watched all the videos I could find about it, I thought I really understand the car, but I didn't without actually living with it for a while. Some tips I can give to people who are thinking of getting this Jeep: I would definitely rent it out for at least a weekend before deciding on it, which I usually would do before committing to any car. Somehow I didn't with this car. I think because I was caught up with all the things that I can customize with it. Anyways, if you go on a test drive, drive it on the freeway for several miles. Drive it at speed you usually drive it at. Don't just go from one short exit to another. It's not going to give you the full freeway driving experience. Really try to live with it and see if you can handle and put up with the car. Also too, going back to the steering, it can just be my particular car, because I've asked other Jeep JL owners if they have any problems with their steering. Some say they have absolutely no problems at all, but then there are over 160 pages on the forum just about the steering TSB. So that's what I would do for those people who are thinking of getting this car. Rent it out and see if you can really live with it. I've had this car for 3 months and my car has roughly around 3,000 miles, but things are starting to rattle, which I understand because you can basically remove every fucking panels of this car. The whole entire top comes off, the door comes off, the windshield folds, and if you go off-road, things are going to shake and rattle and loosen up after time. My car came with the Mopar tailgate reinforcement, which started to make these fucking clicking noise after I got new wheels and tires on it, and it was driving me fucking bonkers. So I went and got the Rugged Ridge Spartacus hinge kit that came with the tire carrier, which eliminated the noise. So those are the things and costs you have to account for if you're going to change up from the stock setup. This car definitely has its quirks. For example, every single day it tells me there's a wind advisory, even though there's no wind outside. Bro. From my research, there's no way to turn it off without getting a new Taser computer module. This 4-cylinder turbo engine sounds like a diesel, and it took like about 2,000 miles to break in. Now the engine is much quieter, it takes a shorter time to warm up, and it gets about 15 mpg now with my current wheels and tire setup. This is definitely not a luxury SUV. A lot of things are manual, for example, seat adjustments. Features like auto lock when you walk away is basically non-existent. But it still has some nice features like heated steering, heated seats, Apple CarPlay. And when you take it into the dealer for service, they will only give you a loaner for 1 day. If the service department needs your car for more than a day, you will have to pay for those days. But I'm fine with all these things. At the end of the day, I really just want a functional car.
Anyways, I think this video has been going on for quite a while now, so I'm gonna stop it right here and make another one in depth of all the things that I did to the Jeep so far. To sum up my experience, I still love this little Jeep. I don't claim to be a Jeep expert or a car expert. I'm really just speaking from my first time Jeep owner experience. Subscribe if you haven't already so you can catch me on my next video. Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions, and until the next one.